Okay, right now we're looking at domestic hot water differential. So we basically added in that module, but we've also had to add in a few other modules as well to get this guy to work. And the modules we've had to put in there is the output configuration. Okay, now how do we set it up? Okay, to set up the auxiliary sensor to do this, you're going to need two independent guys like this, right? Two independent digital stats. The first step is to set up your first stat here as a domestic hot water. So just set that up. In our particular case, that was zone 5. This guy here, you set up as an auxiliary sensor. You go into the engineering mode and you set the ST to 1. That's auxiliary type. That's the type of this guy, which would make it an auxiliary. And the SR, you set that to 1. That's the serial. That's in either 1 through 9 for the auxiliary sensors. We're only using 1, so it's 1 in this particular case. Your next step would be go to your environment and to your network and to set the number of auxiliary sensors that you have. It's normally set to 0, so you set that to 1. Okay. Your fourth step, you would go and you would select the relay that you want to be activated using this differential setup. So in my particular case, I went to logic box 6, relay number 1. The activation used to turn that on then is their differential. And the differential used is in relation to the domestic hot water. Our first one here we set up as domestic hot water was zone 5. So it's differential 5. And it's enabled by the set point of channel 2 in this of that guy there. That's the guy that normally would measure the water temperature, would be always channel 2. And you set that again to zone 5. So it's SPCH25, and that's enabled on that relay. So now you've set up the relay with your activation and your enable. The last step then is you go to the module for domestic hot water differential. So the one that was set up for that. You go to, and we'll just do it as we're here. So we go to domestic hot water differential. You'll see that the one that you can actually make an auxiliary sensor will be a zone associated with domestic hot water. In our particular case, it's 5. So your source is an auxiliary sensor and your IDX is 1. That's when we're this guy over here. We set it up as an SR1 and an S serial number 1. So that's where your IDX1 is out of. And then you set your high and your low limits around which the differential will work. So the high we have set as 10 and the low is 5. So basically then, and remember that the 10 and 5 is our high and low. So we go out here to our, when we go back out here to our domestic hot water, we're doing our differential round, which is zone 5. We go back out here to 5 and we see up in the top right hand corner of the 4.3 inch, you can see diff, temp, and then the temperature associated with the auxiliary sensor here. I have already used my 2 potentiometers, these guys here, going into channel 2 in each case, to verify that once I went above the temperature of the domestic hot water plus 10 degrees, it turned on, 10 being my max. And it stayed on until as it was dropping down now in temperature, it came to within 5 degrees. That was my minimum, at which point it turned off. And that was verified using the potentiometers and my screen here. So the actual system is working fine. It's a bear to set up, yes, but it does work fine, so it is a pass.